to go to a surgeon that doesn't have the proper tools either, or waiting for the
Right.
scalpels to come in,
Right.
right?
Right.
Things like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, I don't have gloves, but it's fine. Come on.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Yeah.
need a knee replacement. We don't have the parts for that, but we'll start it. Yeah,
Right.
that'd be
I
good.
could get you anesthesia. We'll just numb it real quick, but I can get you right now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fine. Come on.
Welcome to the Gearheads and Gasoline podcast, where we dive into the high-octane world of market-leading shop owners, shop employees, and automotive enthusiasts from the aftermarket, restoration, performance, and racing industries. So strap in as we take you on an awesome journey with our guests as they share their real-life stories, lessons learned, business advice, and unfiltered insights to help you beat the school of hard knocks. Gearheads and Gasoline, fueling your success.
That's amazing. Seriously, that's amazing. That is so awesome. So then do you still work with the marketing team, or have you guys since started doing stuff on your own?
We still somewhat work with the marketing team. That was a learning experience in itself also, mostly because we don't sell product, or we don't sell unspecialized services. So we were getting the wrong clientele. So we're just trying to fine tune it to get the more correct clientele, but it helped us understand what we needed for future marketing. And it's really that time gave us what we needed to be where we are now. So,
yeah. Well, that brings up a super good point, right? Which is, and Barry and I have this conversation amongst what we do as careers, right? Is that it's really easy for anybody to go out there and hire somebody who says oh yeah, I can do the marketing for you. I can put a flyer together for you. I can build a website for you. I can do X, Y, Z, right? Fill in the blank. But if that person doesn't have any experience, knowledge, whatnot of the automotive space, you as a customer of theirs, right, are now not only teaching them about automotive, about what you do, how you do it, what makes you different, but also trying to learn from them that isn't apples for apples, right? There isn't a you speak my language, I speak your language kind of a thing. It's this process of one learning each other,
right.
Meanwhile trying to garner something that's going to bring ROI to your business. You know what I mean?
Right. No, that has been really tough, especially trying to grow the brand that we're aiming for, and making sure someone understands that vision of the brand, and they're not changing it just for quantity purposes. Has also been pretty difficult. Yeah. But we're getting there.
Yeah. It's a process.
So you talked in your information you provided us, you talked about community involvement, sponsorship, I believe. How does that impact your business? How's that help it's marketing to a point, but how does that help?
It helped a lot. And so my fiance's name is Jason. So Jason and I promised each other that when we started our business, as soon as we could give back to the community, we would. And that was just more of a moral thing. We didn't really use it as a marketing thing. And so someone came up to us and was like, hey, would you help us with a car show for this local nonprofit? We said, yeah, sure. We became really good friends with them. And then they marketed it, and because of that, people associated the shop with, a nonprofit, which a lot of people associate with. And it gave that kind of marketing gave our business a more strong connected type of marketing unexpectedly. And so it worked out really well, actually. So we got really good, solid clientele from that.
Yeah, you never go into it thinking it's marketing or looking at it as marketing, but it is. It's building awareness. It's showing that you're involved in the community and helping out, and it ends up building awareness for your business, whether especially depending on how the events go and how visible you are at the events, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly what it did.
Yeah. And a lot of it has to do with how great that relationship is that you're building, right? Like it isn't just, like you said, something that was just in that moment. It was something that grew. And then now you guys are, like help one another, even though it isn't like, hey, I'm intentionally going out to help you. It just happens naturally.
With that said, you mentioned word of mouth marketing. What does that look like to you?
Word of mouth marketing. So, word of mouth can be good and bad, right? And the bad could be good because sometimes, and I say that because we have had some people that have left unsatisfied, unhappy. They go make sure that they tell everybody to not go here. And those people are like, I'm going to go try it for myself. And then it ends up, being that sort of way. Word of mouth also works in the local area that we are, because the car community, the classic car community is pretty small. Mm-hmm. It's not very large. Word of mouth goes around really quick. And that has also worked extremely well for us because the people that do give genuine word of mouth are the type of genuine people that car community trusts.
Yeah.
So
are you getting a lot of work locally, or are you getting work from all parts of the country?
We do have work nationally. So our lovely ambulance is all the way from New York City.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. And he drove it here. It took him 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Wow. But we have a 56 Willys that's from California. And we have a Dodge Dart that is from Utah. And we did a motorcycle that's Florida. So we are all over the place.
Yeah, so you're getting that exposure nationally. That's great.
Yes, we are trying. We are trying to hit the right clientele, that right market, we figure if someone really likes us and believes in what we're doing, they don't care how much it's going to cost to get the vehicle over, So we just sent back a Mustang that was a tribute Mustang for this customer's son to Pennsylvania. And so, it was all over the place.
That's so cool. I love it.
Yeah.
How many cars are in your shop right now?
Let me see. As of today, I just updated. We have 12 at first location, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at second location.
Wow.
Yeah.
Got a lot going on. Do you have a backlog too? Do you have a backlog of customers? We've got some customers that are 5 years out.
Yeah, we are currently reaching that 2.5-year mark for the long-term stuff, and short-term stuff is currently about 8-9 months out.
Do you run into issues with people going, I got to wait 2.5 years to get my car done? Because we hear that a lot. And how do they accept that? Or don't they?
We do. We tell, again, transparency is one of our core values. So I'm not going to promise that we're going to get your vehicle in when we can't. We usually explain it to them that it's a process anyways to get the vehicle in, build the estimate. We have to wait for parts. We do not allow a vehicle to come in if we're waiting for parts. Any vehicle that is in the shop is actively being worked on. And so that could take a while getting parts in. So they're pretty understanding of that. But we also explain it, you wouldn't go get back surgery done for someone that's like, I could get you in next week, and they're, not a quality surgeon. You're going to wait a while, So, and then they're like, okay, you waited this long anyway. So what's a couple more months, know?
Yeah. You wouldn't go to a surgeon that doesn't have the proper tools either, or waiting for the scalpels to come in, right?
Right, exactly. Like yeah.
He's like, I don't have gloves, but it's fine. Come on.
You need a knee replacement. We don't have the parts for that, but we'll start it. Yeah,
right. I could get you anesthesia. We'll just numb it real quick, but I can get you right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Fine. Come on.
The Gearheads and Gasoline podcast is proudly sponsored by Redline Synthetic Oil. With a legacy of excellence and over 100 premium products, Redline provides motor oils, gear oils, assembly lubes, fuel additives, and water wetter for the automotive, racing, motorcycle, marine, and industrial markets. Known for their exceptional quality and technical expertise, Redline is trusted by enthusiasts and professionals alike. Discover their full range of products and expert support at redlineoil.com. We talk a lot about youth engagement here because we're really high on getting youth into the industry, and I'd like to understand how your interns or how you engage with youth in your area, schools, colleges, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was an automotive class at a high school at a very urban town here. And they would come to the shop and they would bring the high school students to come look around. And nice. Oh my God, they loved it. Unfortunately, that they're not doing that anymore due to budget cuts. And so anyways,
I hate hearing that.
Yeah, it was, and it kind of started off with the teacher, the auto teacher was getting ready to retire. Mm-hmm. And so it just kind of, no one advocated. He advocated for it. And so next in line just really wasn't, and I didn't mean to say urban, a very rural town here. So they have, it was really big for them. Anyway, so our local colleges and high schools, we partner with to do internships for the students, because we have a lot of students that are showing, or we're seeing an influx in a younger generation that is interested in classic automotive.
Oh, cool. I like hearing that.
Yeah, it's mostly stemming from grandparents are handing down the classic cars to their grandkids, and so they want to work on them, or they're tired of working on the new stuff and they like the old stuff. So we do just that. And so we want to be able to offer a shop that can accommodate that interest in those students that want to work on the older stuff and don't want to do the dealership thing. They want to work on old cars. Yeah. So we allow that outlet for the high schools and colleges to do that. And that we've been doing that since really we started. And we've gotten employees from it too.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, did you hire anybody from that?
Yep. Yeah, we have. He was with us at SEMA, and he just celebrated 6 months with us.
Nice.
So
nice.
It's been great. Yeah,
I love hearing that, because I had auto shop when I was in school, right? So moons ago.
Yeah.
Moons ago. So I had auto shop back then, which was great. I mean, I was already working on cars because of my dad and had that exposure to it, but it was really cool that I got that same support at my school. And much like Barry said, it's kind of that little pain in my heart when I hear more and more schools that are cutting that out of their curriculum, because that is a very critical part of any male or female, right? As they're growing older, just for self-sufficiency, right? Knowing how to change your oil, knowing how to change a tire, very basic skills that kids don't learn, especially if their parents aren't mechanically inclined. I'll give you an example, somebody that I work with regularly, her husband is not mechanically inclined at all. Right. So he couldn't teach. I mean, maybe he could, I don't know, but based off of what I understood, that's not what he really does or knows how to do. So he gets a flat tire or he has a problem, he calls AAA. You know what I mean?
Right.
Versus I have a flat tire. I know how to change my own tire. Now, granted, I probably won't be able to do it on my truck very much longer, but yes.
Yeah, well, that it is a little bit of a survival skill to know how to do those types of things. But you have a lot of students that learning capability does not allow them to sit down for 8 hours a day. They need hands-on, education. They need, and trades too. And maybe some students can't afford to go to college, or maybe that's just something that they don't want to do. So trades, you can't take trades away. It doesn't make any sense to me why someone would.
I don't know why they would either, even outside just trades in general, right? Plumbing, electrical, automotive, welding, fabrication, all that stuff. I learned how to weld in high school. I learned some fabrication. I took our tech school last 2 years, junior and senior year, right? And the thing today, all those jobs pay really well,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
they're needed in, regardless of what kind of trade it is, a huge micro fan here. So, that kind of stuff. As far as interns go that are that are in school right now, if we get fortunate enough to young kids listen to our podcast, what would you tell an intern looking to actually knock on your door or talk to their guidance counselor to come and intern at your shop? How do they need to think about that?
They need to understand that just because it's an auto shop does not mean you don't hold yourself to a professional standard. So you do have to make sure that you have a resume and you have a really solid work ethic. Learn skill. You're never not going to know everything. So you have to understand that too. It's okay to ask for questions. It's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to be constantly in a learning process. There are such thing as stupid questions. So the quality of your questions are really important when you're walking into an automotive setting. So sorry, I hate to tell you guys that, but it is very true. So quality of questions. But for anyone young trying to get into the automotive field, don't be scared. No matter what gender you are, you walk in, have a strong work ethic, be dedicated, be passionate about what you do, be open to communication and questions and understanding. And constantly learn and do research. That's one thing that we look for interns. All of our interns are required to do an interview before you intern with us, because I do feel like it does set them up a little bit for the real world. I mean, whether it works out with us or not, you have to know how to interview. You have to know how to advocate for yourself and for pay and sell yourself. You shouldn't work for anyone or anywhere if you're not happy, because it's your livelihood also. It's not, you shouldn't look at yourself as a number on a spreadsheet. So you have to advocate for yourself also. But yeah, when our interns come in, their requirements are they have to participate in what we do. They have to be passionate about what we do. You have to ask solid quality questions, no matter how old you are, when you started in automotive, or what gender you are, you're going to make it.
Yeah, and one thing that we've heard a lot lately, and I like to say, you also have to understand that you may sweep the floor, you may take the trash out, you may do that kind of work, because there's a lot of attitude these days I've seen and heard from younger people that I'm going to start painting cars in a week after I'm here, and I'm going to make big money. No, it doesn't work that way. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's actually another requirement of ours, especially for our probationary period, is you will be expected to sweep the floors, put tools away, clean the bathroom. You know what I mean? Because it's a team effort. If that's something you don't want to do, then you really need to make sure you're very well skilled, because everywhere you go, you're going to have to do those types of things.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I think that that's just a fundamental thing that all shops should make, in incoming employees, like, especially, I don't want to say like all employees, right? But like entry level employees do, right? Because I mean, I started working, my dad worked at a gas station for a period of time, and he would let me come in and help after school. And that was the first thing that my dad did when I got there, is he handed me a broom and he's like, go to work. Because that was my job, right? I got to sweep the floors and I got to empty the garbage and I got to do some of the remedial stuff around the shop, because it's still important. It still has to get done, and it still sets that professional presence for the company. But
it does.
I mean, it's not a glamorous job, but I mean, shoot, legitimately, there are people who make a lot more money than them, and they still have to do those things.
Absolutely. Well, it's the iconic Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. I'm not going to allow you to touch a customer's pristine, very sentimental vehicle if I can't trust you to, sweep a floor correctly,
Right.
so you have to, it's a definitely, fundamental for sure.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Annette Bauer Creative. At Annette Bauer Creative, we understand the power of visual storytelling in transforming brands and driving growth. From capturing the essence of your products and services to showcasing the unique solutions you offer, our professional imagery and reels help bring your brand to life. Fuel your brand and ignite your vision at AnnetteBauerCreative.com.
Now, one thing I just thought of, when you're an intern, so say you're an intern, right? And you come in and you were going to get hired. In most automotive shops, guys that come in and work, they have to bring their own tools with them. How does that work with an intern that ends up getting hired? Are they required? Well, depending on what they're hired for, obviously, but are they required to go out and buy tools? Do you help them with that? Do you point them in the right direction? Do you already have the tools? I'm curious. It just popped into my head.
One question at a time, Barry. One question at a time.
No, it's yeah, please ask, because these are all great questions that I wish I would have known and I've learned the hard way. But there's a lot of emotions that don't do what we do. There's very old, especially the age range of vehicles that we do. So when we have interns that come in, some of the colleges or high schools tell them, if you have a tool bag, and most of them do, take that with you. But if not, we have what's called a communal toolbox here. It really is my fiance's. And so as long as you're respectful and you put the tools away and you don't break them, or if you do, you own up to it, then you're allowed to use the tools 100% to your discretion. And our team is really good at being very sharing of their equipment as well. But if an intern is transitioning from intern to employee, for a certain amount of time, we do not allow them to bring in a toolbox just in case things don't work out. You know what I mean? And so that's just kind of our intern that is now an employee. He carried around his Matco toolbox, tool bag for the longest time. And he made it work. He made it work. And you can make it work. You ask people if you could borrow their tools and yada, yada, yada. And so that's kind of how we do things here. Nice. Because we've had some guys that have brought in a huge toolbox setup, and things don't work out. And then that is an awkward exchange, but also, you don't need a whole bunch of fancy tools for what we do really anyways, so.
Right. Cool. Yeah. That's good information. I was just curious, just popped in my head, was curious how you handle that.
Yeah. We have what we call Rebel Road Credit. And so that is awarded through performance participation. Our bingo card thing, they get Rebel Road Credit. And a lot of our guys use that to buy new tools.
Oh, so, nice. That's awesome.
Oh, that's cool. You get them involved in the business and give them incentives to do things and to be present, right? And
even it helps them be more successful.
Yep.
That's
absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
I wanted to go back to something I had written down about customers coming to you. If an enthusiast is watching the podcast and they have a car sitting in their garage and they'd like to bring it to you, what do they need to think about before they even pick up the phone and call you or walk into your shop?
You want to understand what the end goal you want for your vehicle is. Do you want to keep it original, or what are some things you want to update? And then do a little bit of research, budgetarily wise. If you want something completely redone, you need to be a little bit open to budgetary, because things can change. You need to be also really realistic of the condition that your vehicle currently is in, because that's a big one. Some people like to do a lot of comparisons, and that could be really detrimental because it sets certain expectations. So it's best just to call, pick our brain, see if the alignment is right, and
Right.
just really ask as many questions as you can. So that would be the best course of action for someone that's wanting to start
Gotcha.
the process.
Yeah, I can imagine like, like somebody even has that consideration, right? Hopefully they're starting that process with a reasonable budget, like understanding that that's not an easy thing to undertake, especially if you're talking about a complete restoration or, even if you're upgrading some stuff. I know, like, if you're going for something that's very mechanical to something that's more, electronic, then there's
Right.
definitely a lot that shifts in that. Cost is
Right.
definitely involved in that. But at the same token, right, like you said, there being alignment between who the customer is and who you guys are as a shop and how you do work, I think would primarily, at least sounds like, would be more based off of that communication and, do we align with one another kind of a thing.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely.
Very cool.
Yeah, and they also, there's all sorts of there's shipping and truck, especially if they're on the other side of the country, they got to understand there's cost involved in that.
Right.
Um,
Right.
when you finish a car for a customer, how do you put a number of road miles on it before and basically shake it down before you deliver it back? And what does that look like?
That's a great question also. And that is dependent on the services provided. So we have quality checklists for all of our vehicles, no matter what was performed on it. When it comes to crate motors and when it comes to new suspension, steering, and brakes, we have test driving and quality checklists for that. And then that is gone over with the customer. They're handed what we call a Rebel Road guide, and it goes over expectations that it needs to be put on the vehicle and things that they cannot be doing to a vehicle. Like, you can't leave the parking lot doing burnouts with a brand new crate. Like, there has to be break-in period.
Right. Yeah. You need your 500 break-in miles.
Yeah. Once the vehicle is released back to you, we tell you, you have to be very careful with this sort of stuff. And then once we hit that 500-mile break-in period, you bring it right back. We reassess everything. We do a retorque. We check the fluids on the engine and everything all over again. And then it's once it's all clean and clear and you're good to go, then you can, essentially do whatever you want with it. But
Right.
there is a process.
Yeah, I love that you have checklists internally, but you also give your customer kind of, here's the rules of the road initially. And it's based on what you've done to the car and things like that. But that's
Right,
the first time
absolutely.
anybody's ever said that. Hey, here's a list. Here's the do's and don'ts of your new hot rod,
Yes.
right?
Well, one of our other core values is safety. So understanding that these classic cars don't have modern safety advancements could kill someone, or if you're not handling the vehicle carefully, it could kill another innocent, bystander. So that's not okay with us. So you have to hold just as much as responsibility for understanding that you got a shit ton of horsepower under your hood, and you need to be careful with that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that. So, like, exactly what you're talking about, of like, sometimes you go in with like what you came out with isn't necessarily what you went in with, right? And so that change in technology or that change in services could alter how you drive your vehicle. So, for example, I had to have the windshield in my husband's car replaced, and he has a 2021 Kia Stinger. Well, the windshield has all kinds of sensors in it. And so when I had the windshield replaced, they couldn't do it with an aftermarket windshield. They had to order a windshield from Kia. Well, okay, that took forever because everything for Kia does. But when he put the aftermarket windshield in, the first thing that he said to me is, I had to order a new windshield from Kia, but drive this like it's 1989. He said, none of the sensors are working. He's like, please don't rely on them. He was like, you literally have to use all your mirrors. You have to. I was like, you don't have to preach to me. I get it. Like, I use all my mirrors anyway. And he was like, but you would be surprised how many people don't. He was like, so from a safety perspective, exactly what you just said, tapping into it is sometimes you have to help them be safe because they just either take that for granted or they don't really think about it because they've just been so accustomed to, well, my car is going to tell me, right?
Yeah, it goes back and forth, just like you said. we have some customers that have owned vehicles since brand new, off the showroom floor. And so they're used to that vehicle driving a certain way, and then they bring it to us and we do. And so, and our disclaimers and our little Rebel Road guides, say that this vehicle is going to handle new because it is new, or different because it is different. And the same thing, for a customer who wants to get into the classic automotive field, out of realm, and they're stepping out of a 2024, whatever it is. And they're like, well, it doesn't have all these features. And it's like, well, it's an old car. So, although it's newer than it was like in 1969, it's not 2024 new, so
I'll help you work out because it doesn't have power steering.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't want to put in power steering, so you're going to have to push a little harder, pull a little harder.
Yeah, or you bring that C10 farm truck you've had in to put Roadster Shop chassis under it, LS motor in it, and lower it, and put real sticky tires on it, and put a 800 horsepower motor in it. It's going to be a different car, and it can hurt you if you're not paying attention and think it's not going to be anything. It's not going to be the same as that farm truck you bought in by any means, right? It's going to be way better, but you can definitely hurt yourself, right?
Exactly. Yes. We've learned all these things in such a short amount of time.
I bet.
So do you have any, besides what you're doing now, you have the two shops. One shop's doing a lot of the repairs and maintenance and things. Other shop's doing builds. Do you have anything in the future lined up for your business as far as net new kind of services or, something else you're going to do that's cool?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are very goal oriented here at Rebel Road Hot Rod Garage, and all of our employees are expected to be goal oriented. So the goals for the shop are to put over 100,000 classic cars back on the road. And in order to do that, it's going to require 500 locations, 4,000 employees. So that's our goal. That's what we're working towards. Every day we wake up, everyone understands the goal, and that's what we're aiming for.
That's a huge goal. That's like major franchising right there.
Yeah, it is. It's a very big goal. And what's that saying? Shoot for the moon, land on the stars.
Right.
Sort of thing. So that's.
And if your dreams don't scare the shit out of you, you probably should be pursuing something else.
Right. Right. Yeah. So everyone in the new services. Oh yeah, we have business plans of all the services that we plan to bring on during those expansion periods. The procedures, policies, procedures, operations to get each location ready to go. So
I can say that like of all the guests that we've had, and we've had some really great guests on, but much like Barry had said before, like we've not had a guest who has implemented like the checklist or the, like your guide that you provide. And I am gonna stick my foot in my mouth here. I know I'm gonna, but I don't care.
You're being recorded, so remember that.
That's okay. I don't care. Is to say that I think attribution of that is largely based on the fact that you're a woman, and we tend to think about those things a little bit more in sequence than guys do. And not taking anything away from guys, but guys, usually their role is like the action of how do I get it done? How am I going to get out the door? How do I make sure that it works? Right. Whereas women, not only are we capable and obviously, like you said, learn how that actually happens too, to do those things. But we think about a lot of that administrative, like these are the important foundations that the company and the business is built on, so that all of those other things that have to happen more smoothly.
Absolutely. I agree 1,000%. And I agree with that because Jason and I, right? So he owned a business before this, and there was a lot of factors, and it ended up not working out. But when we started this, there's things that and I've never worked in an automotive shop before either. So I don't know how the processes, operations, any of that works, which is probably a good thing because I can start from scratch.
Right.
But oh my God, we had a huge fight one night because he's like, we had just started. We were like 6 months in. And he's like, we're too booked up. We need another location. I'm like, no, we need to figure out how we're doing what we're doing. We need operations. We need steps. We need
efficiency
policies put in place. And we had a huge fight over it. And so, obviously, good thing we didn't add a second location because we didn't need more space. We just needed not that clientele. We needed, we needed better goals. We needed, all those types of things. So I do. It also helps that I have a high definition B, so my brain is just like boom, 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 all these things I pick up. I'm very observant, so I can see what other shops are doing or aren't doing. And it's actually really common that I hear that a lot of the shops, because we have a business coach too, that don't do what we do. And it scares me a little bit because I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't hurt anyone, because that's like so big to me. Is
we were talking about process and everything, and I grabbed a couple of books off my bookshelf. Have you ever heard of Traction?
Yes, I love that book. It's a great book.
Yes, it is. So that's anybody that's watching this, that's a great book for, especially a business with multiple employees, right? We have a virtual team, but it does help. And then have you heard of this one?
No, Profit First. No.
Yes. So that's about managing money. You should check that out. You'll love it.
Okay.
And Who Not How. Who Not How is my favorite book. But anyways, Annette, do we have anything else for Joel?
We do. We have our we have our speed round. So, Joel, the way that the speed round works is I have a series of questions to ask you. I'm actually going to shift these a little bit based off of what we've learned about you and based off of like kind of what you guys do. But the idea behind it is that I want you to respond with whatever comes first to your mind. Like, don't think too much about it.
Oh, God.
So knowing that you really came from like the classic hot rod kind of era, that's what you grew up with and that's what you really resonate with, that definitely leads me to the first question of what is your favorite hot rod or even like muscle car?
Muscle car, my dream muscle car is a 1967 Shelby GT 500 fastback, Eleanor.
I was just going to say that.
Eleanor.
I love that car. Like, I'm not really a Ford person, but like that car, I'm just like, oh man, that is like jewelry.
That's the one that got me really hooked. And I mean, I have a 54 Chevy. It's cool. But God, that Eleanor really just, I don't know. But yes, that one.
I have a friend in Texas that works at Classic Recreations, and they make carbon fiber versions.
Oh, yes.
They do some really cool stuff.
Nice. So on to the next question. Knowing that you do know how to do some of these things that we've learned, you know how to weld, you know how to do some of the fabrication stuff, what would you say is your favorite tool in your toolbox?
My favorite tool in my toolbox? A screwdriver. A flathead.
Okay.
And I know. Yes. It sounds so dumb, but I use that thing for everything. The back of it, you can get all kinds of stuff out with it. The front of it pries everything off, I know that sounds so dumb, but
it doesn't. Everybody has got something like that. Everybody's got something that they love out of the toolbox. So next thing is, do you have a favorite like car show, right? Given that you come from like the vintage, the classic car kind of era, again, is there anything that really resonates with you in that like realm?
I haven't had the opportunity to go to a whole lot of car shows nationally. So really just the ones here locally. We used to have the National Street Rod Association come through. And at that time it was the best, but they don't come here anymore. So
oh, man.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of associations like either close shop, especially after COVID, or like things just didn't work out with ownership. So they ended up, you know, like kind of folding essentially. So, and the last question I have for you, this one always stumps everybody. So don't feel like you're left alone in this. And that is, what is the best advice you've ever received and from whom?
The best advice that I have ever received. It's probably going, and it wasn't face to face, but it was, if you want to do things you've never done before, if you want to see things you've never seen before, you have to be someone you've never been before. And that's from Elena Cardone.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I'm a huge person of not letting fear dictate your life, right?
100%.
To step out and believe in yourself enough to know that whatever you are passionate about was put there for a reason, right? It's not, wasn't by chance. It wasn't by accident. You have a dream in your heart or something that you continually come back to for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a good one. That is a good one.
I love it.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in today. Thank you, Joelda, for joining us today. Would you tell everybody how listeners can find you, reach out, and connect with you?
Yeah, of course. So social media is the best way. LinkedIn, Joelda Lopez, or you can reach us through Rebel Road Hot Rod Garage.
Nice. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Joelda, for joining us. We're super happy that we got to learn more about you, your company, and the great people that you work with. And for all of our guests, thanks for joining in while we're fueling your success. We know you don't want to miss an episode, so don't forget to smash that bell so that you get notified of every new episode. Click that like button, leave us a comment, and share with your people. And visit us repeatedly. We love it.